What's going on, D?
Hey,
I got a question for you. I want to see what your answer is. I got a question for you. You ready?
mm-hmm.
If somebody had to say, if you heard the if you heard if somebody had used an adjective to describe you, and they said that you're very humble, would you like that as an adjective to describe you, or how do you feel about the word humble?
How do I feel about adjective humble? Um, hmm. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is what is the context of what that you are using humble
Okay,
in?
let's push it back on relationships. um I'll be insulted. Got you. So what I hear all the time is that women and men both need to be humble in relation in approaching a relationship. I hear more so that women need to be humble, and I'm tying it into this Linux world today, but it's a reason why I'm asking that. So when you hear the word, or when you hear the phrase that you need to be humble, in let's put it in the context of a relationship, and that relationship could be man and woman or whatever, but the relationship could also be a relationship with your job, that you need to be humble. How do you receive that? How do you hear that? how does how
Negative,
does humble sound to you?
negative.
Sounds negative, right?
Yeah, like humbling myself unto the Lord is different than humbling myself like at work or a relationship. I think there is, and I'm looking at the definition of it as well because you know I love a good word. Um, yeah, definitely con context clues, but in a relationship, then they can say that that's also like dimming your light.
Correct. So why did I bring that up? Because I hear all the time that women need to be humble, men need to be humble, whatever the case may be, right?
Hmm.
So let's flip this. Can you take that same humble attitude into the workforce? Can you be humble in the workforce? And I say sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to fight for your space, your surroundings of who you are. And then sometimes you just have to let people be who they are, and then they're gonna figure it out after a while, right?
Because you can be act you humble. To be humble, you can also be putting on an act and also to get what you need. It could be a strategy in order to get what you need out of the job based on who you are dealing with. Being open and receptive for me is definitely different than being humble.
So I said in the response, I said I don't like the word humble. I like the words with leading with care and kindness
Hmm.
versus being humble. Because you could be humble and not care. Oh yeah, you need to champion for your skill in the workplace. So you being humble doesn't bode well. You sometimes you got to fight for who you are and so forth and so on. In some of these places, because people will overlook you, right? But I wanted to bring that up because I want to know how do people see themselves in the workplace? How do you let people know you actually understand what you're doing? How do you shine in the workplace? How do you do it, D?
How do I shine?
How do you non-verbally communicate that?
I'm a doer. I am a doer when it comes to the workplace. Everywhere around me, I am a doer and a multiplier. Uh, because for me, it is a the KISS method to keep it simple. And I don't want to label myself as lazy, but I don't like to have to do the same thing over and over. So I am an automator of processes, to say the least. So when I find a system or a process that or a tool that makes um, my job easier and that I can pass that on to the team, then I go ahead and I take the lead in getting that implemented.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a challenge. And I'm not picking on you. Please don't think I'm picking on you. I'm gonna give you a challenge. Have you ever? And I've tried this myself. Don't think I'm just calling you out. Have you ever tried to talk without using your hands?
Yes.
Is it hard?
Yes and no. Depends on what I'm talking about or if there's a thought that I am trying to articulate. It is, and I just started using it underneath the table. It is to help to get the thought out, and it's a form of communication. It's nonverbal communication.
It could be received as aggressive.
This is aggressive.
That
We
that
learn that,
that could be received as aggressive.
but I mean, I've been told that that's aggressive. I mean, we've had the conversation. You're like, why are you clapping? Because it's one of those things where it is like your exclamation point
I
behind the
get that,
word.
but have you been in a situation where you have your spirited debate with someone and not tried to use your hands?
Yeah, when I'm on the phone, probably,
But in person.
maybe. I'm not. I can't recall. I am an animated person. That's why I like staying working remotely. Because not only do I speak with my hands, I also speak with my facial expressions and my body language, and that's something that I've always done all my life. So I can be
Okay,
saying something really sweet, but on my face is not conveying what I'm saying.
do you think that's something that you could work towards? And here's why I'm asking. Here's why I'm asking. And this is for anybody. Do you think that if you could not talk with your hands and without your facial expressions and without your body language, that some conversations could have went differently
Mm,
for a positive?
no. So now, like, looking back over my life,
Mhm.
when I don't give any automation in my body language, then that is perceived as me being nonchalant, and I don't care about that other person, what they're saying, um, how they are feeling. It's one of those things where it's a double edged sword, because a lot of people, when they speak to you, they are trying to evoke some type of emotion. They're trying to get some type of um, feel from you. So I've been in situations absolutely where it's just like, you know,
But did
people.
you care if you what? Did you not care? The fact that you were not animated, did you not care?
No, it wasn't that I didn't care. It is some things sometimes you have to um for me, you have to put yourself in a situation where um you are calming yourself down, or you have thought about a situation and you're just saying, okay, well, either I am cool with it, or I am pondering this thing, or I have reached a decision for myself on how I'm going to deal with it. And this is how it is now. Also gauging that other person is, if what I'm giving going to make them react in what types of ways.
It's hard for you to not talk with your hands right now, isn't it?
No, because I'm cool because I'm conscious of it because you've mentioned it.
You're right, but you got it under the, you got it not in the screen. It's very,
I'm holding my legs. Actually, I'm holding my hands. I'm holding my leg. Like my leg is crossed, and I'm holding that.
it's
I'm
hard though,
holding that.
huh?
But I think it's something that you can do in practice. Like if you
Right.
practice that thing, but also other parts of people bodies move, like if your eyes go to the left or go to the right, or you use a and all of these things that we do to be able to get our point across.
Gotcha. Multiple cultures talk with their hands. Heather, you say you use your hands. All right, so I brought that up for a reason, because I think oftentimes as people, because I know some men talk with their hands too. Because and they may not be as animated, but some men are like, well, I'm just, they do like this. They're like, this is, there's, it's like they're trying to get it out. This is their thing. They do that, right? But again, I mentioned that to say is film yourselves talking sometimes, or watch when you're talking sometimes to people, to see if there are adjustments that you can make. Not saying to dumb it down or whatever the case may be, to dumb it down, or I mean, not to dumb it down, but to see how you can communicate effectively without doing what you've been doing. I'm just pointing out things that I have done over the years, for my communication. Like try to switch up. Like, okay, let me sit back and just really listen and not interject. And sometimes it's hard for me not to interject because I don't want to lose my train of thought.
Yeah, you're an avid interjector.
Because I've been trying not to lose my train of thought at that point in time. Because some people, when you talk, when they're talking, they may roll out 15 things and you still back over here, and you mention something that's back over here. They're like, I don't move past that. Well, I didn't, because I didn't get a chance to respond to that you talked about 15 minutes ago. So now I got to go back in order to respond. And so one of the things I also have tried to do is make sticky notes in my head in conversations. Like, let me write that down. I want to respond to that, and I want to respond to that. And so it's kind of hard when someone is winded when they're talking, and then you trying to go back to something they said 15 minutes ago, and they be like, "We don't move past that. I don't want to talk about that."
Now, is this in work or this is just in relationships in
It's
general?
just both work, relationships in general, just in practice. I am listening to people talk, and I can tell, like, some people talk for a very long time, and so whatever it is that you have to say, you don't get a chance to say it because they may be 15 minutes of talking, and you're still stuck back over here on this thing because you don't want to forget it and you want to make mention of it, and you don't get a chance to make mention of it because that person has been talking for 15 minutes. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to m- have that person land the plane, is like, as they say, so other people can interject and not have this 15-minute conversation that they've had, or whatever the case may be. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place to do that. But then that goes into active listening, because in active listening, you take time to hear all what that person has to say, whether it's long winded or not, depending on the situation, so that they can get it out. And so it won't be a situation where when you interject, they're not coming back to be defensive. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because they got everything they thought they wanted to say out. And then you can ask for clarity and then make your points after they're finished.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not good at that. You
No.
can, yeah, I'm not good at that because you throw too much at me at one time, I'm gonna forget everything you said. It's just
Yeah.
like
And that's where a lot of things get lost in translation. And we had that conversation the other day, even in dating, where you're having a conversation with somebody, and as you suggested, they're holding on to that one thing that they want to respond to, or that one thing that they are feeling some type of way about, and they don't hear anything else that you said.
Right. So now the question is, the person that is primarily long winded, should they focus on being uh, taking their putting their thoughts out in chunks, so it allows a person to respond to what they're saying in an active way, where they heard what they said and they want to, like, okay, I said this, do you want to respond to that? And then if not, I got more. But if you don't have anything to respond to that, then I got more.
I think it's on also how you know that person communicates, their communication style. They can be long-winded in some areas and short in another. So as whatever relationship that is, creating a dynamic where you check in with people after you've made a point. Like if you have one point, check in with your partner when you know that your partner is a double dutcher. Like they want to get in, they got to say it. And then that way everything can stay on task. This is what I'm feeling, or this is what I recalled, and this is this. Can you speak to that? And then, it is now it's a conversation, because you're going back and forth. Or if it's something that you need to have like write down beforehand, so you have your points that you want to get across at that conversation, then you can go from there. But like for me, it really irritates me when I'm in a 15 if we're in a stand up in the morning and it turns into a ticket review. That is not a stand up to me. I don't want to go. I don't no. No, all my tickets are up to date. I don't have any I don't have any issues. I don't have anything outstanding. Like no. Some forums are just, and the types of communication are just not needed. But if you are in relationship, whether it is your teammate or what, to have that dialogue. For me, you know, again, I always say that I am dealing with a cultural divide when it comes to work, because my company is based in India. Basically, I'm an immigrant, I'm working for a foreign company. And so a lot of times the way they communicate is rude to me based on me being an American. They cut each other off, they interject. Sometimes their tone is not nice. Sometimes how they question each other to me is not nice. But, when it how they deal with each other, if they don't have anything to say, then I leave it alone. But when it comes to me and how I want to be spoken to as a professional, as a colleague, as trying to get something done in a communication, I let people know where I'm at with it. When you say A, B, C, and D, well, first I fluff it up. I know you want to do A, B, C, or D. However, when you say A, B, C, and D, it comes off as E, F, G, and maybe this is what I would see. Give them a couple of examples and some EFGs, and then we'll go from there. And then let's discuss. Let's open up the floor. And I always check with at least one colleague that I know that is my ally to check my tone with it, because not only is it cultural, it's also generational on when it comes to the age difference and things. And then, sometimes some people, they just don't give a F. They don't care what you're talking about. I don't care what you say, how you say it. They just don't care, and they're gonna do what they want to do. You're on mute.
I'm glad you mentioned tone, because we're gonna go over a couple of things today. Some things that I found interesting, and this is in regards to your voice at work, your voice in your your tech journey, your voice in when you write and responding to emails, your tone and so forth. And this was a good one on how to be a powerful communicator. There is another one that he did. This guy has a very interesting story, that I found. I'm looking for one more. Um, it was one more that he did. It's up here somewhere. The power of tone. Let's go over that first.
Your voice
All right.
is what
So
makes
let's
it.
go. It is no, that is Safari. No, that's Chrome. So let me put it in Safari real quick. Oh, I am in Safari. Okay, cool.
Yeah, play. I heard the audio.
Okay. All right. So let me back up, and then we're gonna get into a little bit more of this. And I got some jobs, stuff I want to go over. I have some skill sets and stuff that I want to go over and so forth. But this is part of your skill sets.
It definitely is.
This
It can make
part
or
of your
break you.
skill set.
It can make or break you. And like I said this over and over. I like to get in the weeds, so I asked a lot of questions when it comes to my job, my W-2 employment. However, it could come off very. I don't know how it comes off to other people, but I found I can ask the same questions and add a smiley face,
Yeah,
and
but
it's
you
different.
you again, it's the tone and the words that you may use, and so you may have to find
It
substance.
is just the same thing
I
with the
know.
smiley
I
face.
is but it's the relationship you may have with that person, that everything that you say is just gonna
And it's and I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
anything you say, that person just gonna be agitated by you. Them you could say good morning, they be like, why the hell they say good morning to me? They
Right.
know all
Especially
these
when
like
you're not doing what they want you to do and how they want you to do it.
right.
I get it.
Yeah. Are there any black women in tech industry share their stories as well? I love to look into further than that. So, yeah, it's plenty. There's plenty. There's Kiana Patterson shares her story from a what's the word? I guess a fun perspective. Someone who's raising money for black and brown founders. There's um oh, I gotta bring that up. Angie, we'll do a review with Angie. She
Angie
just
Jones. Go to the Twitter. That is
yeah,
where the black tech people they go reside.
she was
You
just on. She just came back from Nigeria. We'll review that as well too. So yeah, it's plenty of us out there.
hold on. I have a whole list of people right here in my Twitter. Let me pull that up again.
Yeah, let me get. I'm gonna start the video.
No worries. I'll share it in the chat.
Magicians who watch other magicians and know exactly how they did the trick. So for someone like you who does this for a living, you're like, really? You guys fell for this crap?
As a person who's trained in this stuff, who's super hyper conscious and aware of it, how can you tell if someone's being genuine, or can you, when they're using their voice in ways to communicate certain ideas?
There is a saying, and that's a brilliant question because it's the moral dilemma. You know, they said if you can feign sincerity, right? And it's true because that is the smallest unit of vocal communication. So there's there's like these stages of amplification, right? Like your tone amplifies your silence, and then your voice amplifies your tone in that order, and then your words amplify your voice. Is what makes a great salesman.
Did y'all catch all that? Let me rewind that for you. Let me go back. Did y'all just catch what that man said? Did you catch what he said, D?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna play it again.
That is the smallest unit of vocal communication. So there's there's like these stages of amplification, right? Like your tone amplifies your silence, and then your voice amplifies your tone in that order, and then your words amplify your voice. Is what makes a great salesman a great salesman. When they say the sign of a great salesman is when they can sell anything. And it was always like, well, why is that? It's because they're like magical. It's like, no, it's because they understand what it means to be completely infused with the belief that the product that I have in my hand is the best thing ever. It doesn't matter what they touch. It matters that in their possession, like when they say, sell me the pen, in my possession, this pen becomes valuable. You might give it to somebody else. I'm like, it's just a pen.
Fucking sell anything.
Why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you name down that napkin for me?
I don't have a pen.
Exactly. Supply and demand, my friend.
So the thing that I find interesting is that this kind of control is like giving loaded guns to people. And sometimes a loaded gun is used to protect someone, and sometimes a loaded gun is used to bring harm that was undue. I'm pretty like about where and when I train people, because I recognize like, oh my God, you can like really like get by if you understand that, because most people think that content, which has been promoted, that content is king. The king on the chessboard is powerful, but then there's the queen. And so maybe Tone is queen, but when she moves, she moves the board and she moves people. And so when you have mastery over that, that's what makes a great storyteller, because technically storytellers have to suspend the reality that you're currently living in, right?
So now, are y'all catching what he putting down?
Yes.
But are you also listening to his tone in which
It's so smooth groove. I am rolling right now.
which in which he?
Oh yeah, it is. It pulls you in because he sounds like a narrator.
Right. So he has a very interesting background. And I'm gonna play that in the other video. But what I want to show you is in your interview, you have the power. In your interview, you are the narrator of your life, of your tech skills. You're pulling people in. You got the resume. Now you got to sell yourself. You are the narrator. You are pulling them into who you are. And they got to sell you too. Don't get it wrong. It's a two-way street there. We're going to focus on you. Let's focus on making you greater than what you were before you joined this live. How can you use your tone? How can you use the narration in your voice? How can you use your skills? How can you convey your story to people where they have no hands down but to hire you? You may not know everything, but the fact that you're willing to learn, the fact that you can showcase, the fact that you can narrate, the fact that you can work through a problem, the fact that you didn't get flustered, how does that work? A lot of people have gotten jobs just because people like them. Believe that. All right, let's get back to it.
Right now, in exchange for a different one, and one that is believable, and one that takes you from this place and transports you to another place. And so storytelling is, in the business world is, I guess you could say, well-intentioned deceit, because this isn't real yet. It's not real. It's not true. But I'm going to give you a vision of the world that I believe could be. And I want all of you to get behind me.
So I'm going to pause right there. Who do you think is the greatest storyteller of our time, company-wise, right now? Apple. 3 trillion sitting in assets. You believed in the podcast, the iPod. You believed in the iPhone. You believed in every single thing they talked about with that ecosystem. Every single product, every charger, every USB, every PC, everything that Apple has bought. Apple TV is on an uptick right now. You believe in the ecosystem.
I'm buying it.
You've bought into the story.
You've drank the Kool-Aid.
Who before that? Who was it? Microsoft. They sold you a story. They didn't sell you a product. They sold you a story. They sold you what could be. Imagine having a laptop and you have a Windows operating system on it, and you have all these products you brought into the Microsoft ecosystem. Google is the ecosystem. What other product is going to come out that's going to compete with Apple, Google, and Microsoft as an ecosystem? From tablets to laptops to phones, who else? Because Microsoft, Google, and Apple all have an ecosystem. They all have storytelling. They all have a platform.
I know one that we use. We're like avid.
What's that?
Samsung.
Samsung has an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Samsung hasn't told the story.
No, but we buy into this is the Samsung.
They got the tablets. They got the phones. They got the tablets.
They
They're
got the
missing something.
watches. They got the appliances.
But they don't have software.
No.
They don't have software. So you can't buy into their ecosystem fully. There's no Samsung Sheets. There's no Samsung Excel. There's no Samsung.
Actually, there is. We don't use that stuff.
Oh, I don't know. I ain't seen it.
Oh yeah, it's a whole system in your phone.
I have to go look it up. I ain't seen it.
Yes,
Let
it
me look
is,
it up.
and we just don't use it.
Samsung.
It is a whole bunch of applications that they have.
Let me look up Samsung. Apple.
So they got a Samsung Cloud, Samsung Music, Samsung Health, Samsung Notes, Samsung Pass.
No, what immediately comes up is Samsung Internet, Music, Flow, the calculator, the email, a smart app manager. I don't see.
I have the Cloud, Health, Music, Notes, and a Pass on my
Right,
phone.
but you don't have a sound. You don't have. They don't have an office.
I don't know. Go into
Yeah, I'm looking.
the
I don't see it.
something else. Show you Samsung, something else.
Yeah, I don't see nothing Samsung for Office or Word or anything of that nature. I don't see that. And you let me know if it's something out there. All right, let's get back to them. Drop in the chat if y'all see something.
It's where you have like the Theranos lady, right? Who was known for her voice. And people be like, oh, her voice there was something about her voice. And you see where that led people, or anyone that has great charisma that has led people astray. Usually they have these qualities about them that people were drawn to. And so you have to become mindful of who you allow yourself to be drawn to in that regard.
The Theranos lady, let's bring that up because she got a lot of money from a lot of people.
Wiped out nearly $1 billion of investors' money.
And bought into a vision that was completely like, it went against physics. Like it didn't make sense to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watch her TED Talk and then the ensuing documentary films about her voice sounds.
So let's stop right there. Let's talk about her for a second. What did they buy into? They brought into a brand that already existed. She dressed in monochrome. She dressed in all black. Steve Jobs did that.
Right. She was
She studied
mimicking somebody.
Well, not mimicking somebody. She studied the game. She studied what people would believe in.
Right, but also she was mimicking what she thought they needed. Like Steve Jobs was her blueprint. She even changed her voice in the tone of her voice to be that person. And they bought in.
They didn't buy into it. They didn't have to buy into it. They were already there. They didn't have to buy into anything. She just came along and just and presented and spoke. And again, I understand.
She showed up in something familiar.
Yep. The art of it.
Yeah, she showed up in something familiar.
Fake to me. It almost seems like it is an affect that she's applying very consciously.
I believe the individual is the answer to the challenges of healthcare.
And I wonder why people didn't pick up on that, or maybe you have a different perspective. Can you break some of that down?
You know how certain magic tricks don't work anymore? Like how someone can't sell you like a bottle and with water in it and say, this is super nitro juice. Like no one can do that anymore, right? Because we all figured that one out and we got it. So you can't pull that one over us. I think every generation, there is this thing that will go until it doesn't anymore. When Elizabeth Holmes was doing her rounds, she was something exotic to observe. It was like, whoa, here's his voice and like here's his idea. And deeper voices are associated with a certain level of confidence.
Exactly. Deeper voices are associated with a deeper level of confidence. The higher the pitch on the voice, the less confidence, and the more people pick at it too, right? The more people pick at it. So I'm just pointing things out. I'm not telling you to make your voice deeper in when you're talking. Some of you already have naturally deep voices. I have a naturally deep voice. I can't help it. My mom's voice is deep. My grandmother's voice is deep. Everybody in my family, their voice is deep. It's just who we are. We're deep voice women. It is what it is. But there are some nuances in how you project, how you use your tone, how you interact with people that you can always win them over. I don't know. D, do you think I always win people over?
Do you always win people over?
Mhm.
The majority of the time, but it's not just your voice. I think it's an energy
Mm.
that you exude around people that it makes them comfortable, and an infectious personality. And from the we're friends in real life, so the stories that you've
We all right in real life. You need to be honest with people. We okay in real life.
so the stories that you've told me, I know how this person came to be.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I know how this person came to be. So it makes sense based on your journey why it is. But some people just have that attraction to people. You know what I'm saying? Especially when they are feeling seen, when they're feeling heard, when it is not a stressful environment. Like a safe zone rather.
Mm.
Yeah. Rather a safe zone.
Gotcha. So let's go.
Witness, and you're like, okay, yeah, sure. Once you find out on the other end of it, oh man, there are people who are magicians who watch other magicians and know exactly how they did the trick. So for someone like you who does this for a living, you're like, really? You guys fell for this crap? But all of those spectators that enjoyed being entertained, there were so many anecdotes about people being drawn to her voice, which let me know that was doing something.
All right, y'all ready to see the not the full video, but the original video about who are we looking at? Who is he? Who is Marshall Davis? All right, so here we go. I'm gonna read this here so you can get an idea of who Marshall Davis is, and then we'll go into it. Marshall Davis has a conversation about the power of communication and the role of voice in connecting people. Marshall introduces himself as a world bridger, someone who connects one thing to another, and shares how he started as a competitive poet in the slam poetry community. You can see him doing slam poetry all day. He performs an excerpt of one of his poems, Touchscreen, which critiques the over-reliance of social media and technology. Chris and Marshall discuss the importance of tone, texture, and storytelling and the ways in which people use language to convey their emotions and ideas. They also explore the connection between body and breath and how mindfulness practices can help regulate the nervous system. The conversation ends with the discussion on Marshall website mindbodyspeak.com, which offers resources for people to improve their communication skills. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. The choice of words, improving communication skills. What does that look like? This is part of how we Linux. This is another part of your skills. And then also another part of your skills and when you write, the tone in which you write your emails and the tone in which you respond to people is also effective. Another effective form of communication. D, what you got? You looking like you ready to say something?
No, I'm intrigued. This is like right of my wheelhouse. It is. I'm always looking for um, ways in which we communicate. And again, I'm a social work major, so it is a generous degree. It is a people degree. You know what I'm saying? It's part of the social sciences. So when it comes to people, how they communicate, what they communicate, when they communicate, how they listen, what they absorb, it intrigues me.
Mm.
It intrigues me, and then we just happen to be people that solicit feedback on ourselves,
Mm.
because you really don't know how people receive you unless you ask. And some people don't want to ask because they don't really care. But then it's like, how are you growing if you don't have a checks and balances within yourself? So hearing this is just it's really good because it's going to help people um, that have not really been conscious of that, and just like really on their tech skills. This is a really important, I guess they will call it a soft skill, but to me it's
Integral
a
part.
hard skill
This
because
is this is an integral part of your journey.
it's a fundamental that you would have. And as you speak about it and listening to Chris and this other guy speak,
Marshall.
Marshall speak, going over my career in just pre-tech, one of the biggest things, and then going into tech when I worked at a startup and I was on the phone in that respect, and moving up when it came to escalations and moving in different teams and cross-functional roles within that customer experience realm, is that was one of the things that always used to be brought up to me as um I guess a good thing, was that my tone was exceptional, and the way that when after I let people get whatever they had out, the tone in which I spoke to people definitely unarmed them in a way that they didn't understand. Because for me, it is when you match a person's energy that is yelling, that is about to fall off the ledge, when you match that energy, you are saying you are communicating to a person that you are ready to fight with them, right?
Mm.
For me, you are ready to fight when you match that energy, or you're defensive, or you are absorbing everything that they're saying as a personal attack against you. First of all, this is my job. It's not a personal attack, and if it were me, I would be upset too. So after that is, well, let's see what I can do to make this better. But the tone that I spoke in, it never broke. It wasn't above it. It wasn't below it. It was so much so where you guys used to joke like I was on the 976 number. Is that the 976, the 978? What's the sexy number? What's the sexy call people?
I don't know.
Yeah, 976 numbers. You guys used to joke that I was doing the 976 number because it sounded sultry to you all. And it
Yeah,
didn't.
I mean, well, that was because you were talking to people on the phone constantly, right?
Right. But to me, and when you hear yourself speak and how other people hear you speak are two different things. So it was a running joke because it sounds sultry to my friends, but to me it wasn't sultry. It was just in my head, in my ear, I heard it as a monotone, a warm monotone voice.
Yeah. Right, you ready?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People do have an unhealthy relationship with money. They're afraid of it. They're afraid to talk about it. They think it's bad social manners. It's culturally taboo to talk about money. It is a sign of self-importance for some people. It's a fear of rejection for others, where if I say a number bigger than I think, then they're going to say no, and I can't handle the rejections because it's going to crush my soul. Yeah, so I'm excited to have this conversation with you. You and I have spoken on Clubhouse, and we've also spoken on Zoom a couple of times. And I think that what you do really fascinates me. And I have to admit, Marshall, I really don't fully understand the concept. So I think it's going to be a treat for everyone who's listening or watching this video to be able to understand a little bit about the power of your voice and the journey that you've been on. So maybe before we continue too far, for people who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of story about how you got here?
Oh man, my name is Marshall Davis Jones. I'm a world bridger, and that term came to me by some weird accident, but it was the best way to describe what I wanted to do in the world, and that is connect one thing to something else and be in the middle somehow. And that started with spoken word. So I was a competitive poet in the slam poetry community. And it requires you to have a way with words, but also to be able to bridge ideas powerfully to strangers very quickly who will rate you right now from 1 to 10 based on how they feel. And I learned a lot about how to read a room by making a lot of mistakes in communicating.
Boom. So I want to start there. Do you think if you saw him on the street, you would be like, nah, I'll pass. You wouldn't have a conversation with him? Or based upon his appearance, would you have a conversation with him? And the bigger question is, how many of you look at a person and won't even have a conversation with a person? Just curious. D say I talk to everybody, but
No, that's not what I say. That you talk to everybody. It is you look everybody in the eye, right? Like when you make contact with someone, it's never just like in passing. You are always connected. In the eyes are the window to the soul. So when you are connecting with somebody in their eyes and you are giving them a gaze of more than just a greeting, like, hey, how you doing, and keep it moving. It's, hey, how you doing? And then you're waiting, like it's never like I'm waiting for a response
because it's disingenuous to say, hey, how you doing, and then don't wait for somebody to respond.
I agree, right? I agree with you.
Yeah.
However, that is the invite for more conversation. And that's why you end up talking to all the people, because the intro is never just a real quick in passing. And I wait for people, but it's like, hey, how you doing? And when somebody does that to me, I respond so that they are conscious to say, well, hey, let me slow down. Because when somebody asks me, hey, how you doing? And I say, fine, how are you? And if they keep on walking, I know that they are just going through the motions. But when I make my response and they keep it pushing, I keep it pushing, because that's not a dialogue.
Yeah, I keep it pushing too.
No. You know how to keep it pushing up.
Yeah, I keep it pushing. I might trip them up on the way, but I keep it pushing. In tech, the power of communication is so important area of data and big data, the ability to communicate is vital. Exactly. Right. So this is you all wanted. I know a lot of people we come in here looking for like Linux stuff, and we're gonna talk about Linux. We're gonna wreck it. We're gonna wreck it out with Linux. Yeah, man. Linux to the gods, man. Yeah.
But this is it. I mean, I think for us, no, I don't think, I know. Like, this is the most authentic tech training that you're going to get because we give it holistically. It is not just about one thing. Your skills, I don't care how many skills you have. If you don't know how to talk to anybody or you rub people the wrong way, you are going to find yourself in a closet working by yourself. Because they're going to use you up, but it's going to be it's going to be a brick wall. You're not going to be able to move, you're not going to be able to flow, you're not going to be able to grow. Now you might be a well-paid closet person.
So here's a different question. What singer of all time, any genre, do you think did the best storytelling? Let me put some names out there. Do you think Michael Jackson, remember the time? Do you think he was a good storyteller? What about Prince? How about the Isley brothers? How about Sade? Luther Vandross? The Whispers? Who would you classify? Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey. Who was a good storyteller?
Okay, so then there are the storytellers, and then there are the people who sing songs. I agree. Luther was a good storyteller on how he delivered a song, but most of Luther's songs were covers. But the way he would deliver that song,
it was like it was an original.
It was like it was an original song. Then you mentioned the Isleys in storytelling. When they got to that storytelling phase, I mean, I don't care how you feel about the man. The man is the man. It's R. Kelly. Like, R. Kelly is a storyteller. Like, he can take anything and you'll be like,
okay, who before R. Kelly was a storyteller?
I'm about to tell you. Rick James is a storyteller.
Okay.
When you listen to a Rick song, you'll believe it. Teddy Pendergrass, when you listen to his song, you believe it. Like, you be like, I see.
Well, hold on.
Reed was a storyteller.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back. You say, what you just say? Not Luther Vandross. What you say after Rick James? Teddy Pendergrass. So did Teddy Pendergrass tell a good story, or was he an effective communicator?
His delivery might have been what made it believable, but then that's all a part of being a storyteller, right?
No, because you could deliver a story, you could deliver something, but the story is also can stand by itself. So there's delivery, and then there's the story.
I disagree, because you can
listen, you can have a good story and your delivery be horrible, and you get that same story, i.e. Luther, that same story to Luther, and he gonna deliver the story and have a good delivery. So I'm looking for who had good storytelling and can deliver.
But then that gets into other nuances. Was like, well, who was the writer of the song, and do all that?
No, we're not going there for
exactly. So I'm just going by just like
I'm just like who was a good storyteller. Music.
Jill Scott is a great storyteller.
I'll give you Jill.
Jill is a good storyteller. Scarface is a good.
I give you Scarface. What about Erykah Badu?
Erykah Badu is a great storyteller.
How about the Fugees? Or
Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill is a great storyteller.
Okay.
Lauryn Hill is a great I'm looking for people all
the storytelling and then the delivery of that story. That's what I'm looking for. the storyteller, the story, and then the delivery of that story.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of artists
I
it's
give
one
you
of
my
those two
stuff.
things. Like when it comes to the form of communication, like I think growing up, a lot of New York rappers probably told a lot of good stories, but because of their delivery, I couldn't get into it. It wasn't my vibe.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? It
But the
wasn't my
story,
vibe. So then
but
there's all, but for
but the
some
story,
people
but
it's
the
their
story,
jam.
yeah, but their story could have stood by itself. They could have just gave that story to somebody else who had a better delivery than what they had.
Outcast, great storytellers.
Okay. Okay, so now we got an idea of what we're talking about here, right? Delivery and storytelling, right? The story can stand on its own,
Mhm.
right? The story can stand on its own. And
But
then the
like
delivery.
Donald, who gonna say two scrambled eggs and grits? Like you just some people just delivered a little different.
All right, you say
Even Mary J, even though some of those are not her words and she may be singing cover, it's just a different feeling when she sings Sweet Thing rather than this Shaka Khan.
I give you a Tribe Called Quest and even De La Soul. You know who else? Your boy. How you gonna leave out your boy?
Buster.
Yes.
I was just about to say, I was thinking Buster, Missy,
KRS One.
Monica,
KRS One.
Carl Thomas.
Carl Thomas. What about
Carl
Ice Cube?
Thomas is a great storyteller.
What about Ice Cube?
Ice Cube is a good storyteller. Movies
E40.
on movies and in like vocally,
What about E40?
definitely.
Okay. So why I bring this up is I want you. We went through a whole lot of genres within just that little 5 minutes, but I want you to recognize the tone when you go back and listen to some of these songs. Listen to the tones in the songs. Listen to how they deliver, how they broke a sentence down, the intonation in the words. Who were they talking about? What was the audience like? To me, if you had to give me your tech journey, your tech story, you should captivate me. You should draw me in. I should be like, damn, that's a good story. Like I'm fascinated with that person. When you talk about how you solve a problem and how you doing it, remember your delivery is everything. How you communicate to that customer is everything. How that customer, you're trying to gain the trust of that customer in that communication that you're having, right? No, we're not talking about fluff here. We're just talking about the art of communication, the listening to their story, being able to listen to their story and repeat back their story, and then say, "Hey, here's what I think an ideal solution is." At the first crack, there are other words we may need to have a second conversation. This
And
gets in. This
and
gets
knowing
in the
your audience,
sales.
reading the room about
Yeah.
what that is, and knowing that other person's story, and not and active listening, like really not interjecting, just like letting them spill whatever they have to spill. I know it for some people, you want to fix it, you want to jump in, but part of problem solving is to hear everything that went on, what they did, how they did it, when they did it, how long the issue, how many people that they went through to try to help them to solve this issue and were unsuccessful, their daily job task, how important that task is to them, what their role is within the scheme of the company, and what they need that thing fixed for, or the line of business. What is that? And what can you lend to that? Because that's going to help you solve that problem as far as what is it? What is wrong? How can I fix this based on what this person says? Because these are your my brain is escaping me, but these are your clues. These are your clues that you have to go by.
I'm listening. I'm pulling up.
No, I'm just thinking like it's so many nuances in that conversation. And sometimes when you are successful or you just think you're just doing what you do, people now you become a champion of people. And and sometimes immediately they are championing you to leadership, about who you are, how you did it, how you completed this task, based on their journey, or they want to see more of you. Like these type of conversations affect, how you move, what that money is going to look like in the future. This is all bargaining tools, so I mean, I know some people that naturally can sell sand at the beach. They are that charismatic, and they get buy-in immediately. Like you want to know more about what they have going on, what they're doing, how it's doing. And then sometimes, some people are just like a little bit of smoke and mirrors. But one thing that I do know dealing with sales executives is that is their skill. Like they can sell it, but the support part, that's all they want to do. They just want to sell it. They have a support team back there. Like as soon as they get that sale, whatever, they have somebody that's going to dribble the ball and help them go, because that's the only thing their attention span is to sell it.
You ready?
I'm going back to the video.
All right, let's go.
About how important it is to not necessarily just stand on your own opinion because that's what you believe to be true, but to really tap into what others believe and understand and what they value. And mastering words was like a thing, like how do you put words together? And I became really good at it and very formidable in that arena, most likely because of my history in battle rap. But one day I had a friend of mine get on stage and he goes, tell them about the blood leeching demons and things like that. Well, what stood out to me was, one, blood leeching demons, like you need to talk, like what's going on in your life. But two, the tone that he was using to convey his words, I was like, I know you, and I know that you don't sound like that. What is that? But I also knew that for some reason, that was what was captivating everyone. And when he won at the end of the night, I said, bro, what's this? He was like, I'm in acting school, which I knew. He said the very first thing that they train before they teach any other techniques is voice, because the voice is life. And that became a germ. And that germ has led me here.
How long ago was this?
That was April 2011. National, what was it? What would they call it? They called it the Grand Slam Finals. So basically, it's like if you're a poet, it's like right before you go to the main event. It's like the AFC Championship kind of thing. And yeah, man. So everybody competes, and it's the creme de la creme. And so it brings in a lot of energy. The New Eureka Poets Cafe is a place that the bricks in those walls are covered in stories, and you can feel that in that room. And then when you bring all of the poets that are drawn to like the finals, it's just a lot of like electricity. So you really got to bring it. And yeah, so it was a great night, and it changed everything.
You said a lot of things that I'm interested in. I want to follow up with.
So I'm gonna give you a little background on him too. His voice has allowed him to do things with Apple. It has allowed him to do things with major brands, the tone and so forth. So never underestimate the power of your communication. But I'm sure he has perfected how to speak, how to convey a message, and how to get and give the art of storytelling. Let's get back to him so he can ask his question.
I'd like to ask you a question that, if you're uncomfortable, like, let's not do this. But you said that you used to do battle rap, slam poetry. Yeah. And the way that I envision in my mind is poets write words and they internalize them, so it's part of them. Is it possible for you to recite a piece of poetry or to give us an example of some of
Okay, we're gonna skip his poetry. I know y'all want to hear it because y'all like his voice, but I'm skipping through that.
And usually for like even like actors, it's like they usually want to get a cold read. At least that some people have that mentality to get the logic of the words just stuck in there, and then they can play with it with their bodies. I have a different approach where it's like the body gets involved almost immediately, and it helps because it encodes things.
if somebody is listening to this and they're familiar with slam poetry or battle rap and say to themselves, all right, that's a very impressive skill set that you have, your ability to manipulate words, to control your tone of voice, and to embody these words and ideas in your physical self.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, I can't do that. I want to be able to start to peel this back a little bit and to be able to give our audience something that they could try so that they can start to take steps towards where somebody like yourself is at. You said earlier that voice is life, and you talked about voice work. So maybe we just need to step back a little bit and just give people an understanding of what does that mean? Like, what is voice work? If I've never heard that term before, or understand that there's ways that we can use our voice for different impact and to different affect. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
A lot of times you'll hear someone say something like, I don't like how you said that to me. And then the person will respond, what are you talking about? What do you mean? It's like, it's the way you say it. You said that. And it's this elusive kind of assessment or judgment that comes where you're like, well, this is the way I talk, and deal with it or whatever have you. Most of the time when people think about voice work, they'll say, oh, they think about pitch. Like, there's guys want their voice to be deeper. And in fact, I'm gonna send you audio so that you can hear where my voice was when it started, because I sounded like I sounded prepubescent. It's actually quite embarrassing, but you need to be able to compare and contrast so that people aren't under the impression that this is puberty. It is not. Like, I was 26 years old when I started this situation and well past it. But anyway, tone or timbre.
All right, he said tone and timbre. Do you know the difference between tone and timbre? Let me pull that up.
But really quickly,
Go
so
ahead.
people can just give it like just bring it in full circle, is that a lot of brands, or even in Chat GPT, have you noticed that it has asked you like your question and what tone that you want to deliver that message in, what that response is, whether it's authoritative or funny, witty, those tones, they make a big difference on how you communicate. Of course, how people receive based on what they're going through at that time, that receiver may be different, but the way your tone in is matters. And also when you are building a brand, when it comes to you and your personal brand, one of the things they ask is what is the voice, what is that tone, what is your voice, what's the voice of your brand. Those are definitely things that you have to think about on how you want your audience to receive you. So
Charlene Edwards said, I got the message. This analogy from tone to deliver. I love you both for this example. You're welcome. Yep, I just how I talk. It's still coming off rude. it didn't change.
right. And then you know what, Jasmine, I also think when people say that, it's also a defense mechanism, because you're not asking the right question. Because at the end of the day, it is what part of what you received made it come off as rude, because if that was your intention or not. And some people are just, being condescending when they say that, but also it is if you are an effective communicator and you are communicating for understanding, you would ask a follow-up question when somebody asks you that. When somebody says that, I didn't like the way you said that.
Yeah, I wanted to. I looked up different definitions, but I wanted to get it out of the world of music. And so here's some words that describe timbre: piercing, nasal, flat, silky, mellow, warm, breathy. We know we can hear breathy from Tony Braxton all day long. We can, and I'm just giving some examples, like her story, the storytelling of the actual song, and then the delivery for her is breathy. That's her thing, right? And then we
Is that
get
Tony
warm.
Braxton?
Yeah, that was warm. That's Tony
Oh, okay.
Braxton.
That's Tony Braxton. But also in
Yeah.
actors, in like cartoon characters that we see, over the years, and I, I don't know what cartoon people do, but like
I
Scooby
don't know
Doo,
what
or
cartoon is breathy, but who is warm is I would consider warm would be Layla Hathaway, or what's her name from Baltimore? Uh, oh God, she be
to
over at
me, but they're also mellow, and that like I get like deep. Like there's other adjectives that come to my
well,
to
I'm
my
just going
mind.
based on what they got. Warm bass vocals. I'm just going
Yeah,
based.
bass. That's yeah. But that's what I call them, the deep based women, the deep
Yeah,
voice women.
what's her name?
Mesa,
Never Mesa. Yeah, yeah, Mesa.
Mesa.
Um, few upper harmonics with strong fundamental tones. I'm not sure who that is. Would that be somebody like a Jasmine Sullivan? Maybe, I don't
That
know.
is what
Mellow.
mellow.
Mhm.
I wouldn't take Jasmine Sullivan as mellow. I would take more of Mesa and Layla Hathaway as mellow. Like when I think of mellow, I think sit back, just you know, smooth riding a wave that gives you like relax. I would think of a Sade as a mellow.
Okay, I'm well, for smooth and soft voice. I'm going with the Isler brothers. I'm going with
Yeah,
Ron.
yeah, yeah. He's silky. He's silky.
I'm going with Ron.
He's silky.
Nasal. Who's nasal?
Nasally. Who sings out of their nose? That nasally probably would be like more of like a rapper. I'm trying to like Biggie was nasally.
Okay. So old school. What's his name? Uh,
And I think of like that milk chilling.
bitch about me. Bitch about me. What's his
Yeah,
name?
that was Gucci. Gucci was
Gucci Mane.
definitely
Bitch
up in
about me.
ears, nose, and throat. It was all in heady.
Gucci Mane LaFleur.
It was heady. Definitely heady. Like it's something. It's stuffed up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's heady.
And piercing, high pitched, loud sound, piercing.
Uh,
Said that
Patty,
Mariah,
Patty,
Patty, Mariah,
Patty.
Minnie
Yes,
Rippleton.
yes.
Okay.
Mariah. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, why did I say this? I'm saying this because in your conversation, in your talking to people, you may go through all of these. You may go through warm, mellow, silky, whatever, whatever. But you're gonna have to, and I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just saying you may find, or you may go through and actually find which one works for you,
Right.
whether it's warm or mellow or silky or flat or what have you, and it may be in different eras or whatnot
Right.
that
Now,
work.
and this is a thought, because we are mentioning entertainers in that respect, because I mean, I think that's something
That's
that
that's just
people
that's
can just um
well, they just pick it up quicker as an
yeah, you can pick it up quicker, but then it's like, okay, what about something like when you hear like your favorite speaker, like what do you
we
like
can
to
we can
hear?
go
Like
further
your
back.
favorite speaker, like an Oprah. What is an
Well,
Oprah
we
talk?
go further back than that. If you listen to Reading Rainbow, what's his name?
LeVar Burton.
What do you think he is?
When I think about Reading Rainbow, it automatically switches him back to Star Trek. So I'm not sure. I'm not.
I don't know how you go from reading
I
Rainbow.
know, right? That's just my brain. Like it is. This eye looks at Reading Rainbow, but then it goes like his speaking voice, because that's the most recent I have to go through. It goes to Star Trek, and I'm like, that's a whole different character.
No D. No D. Okay, Les Brown. All right. Warm. Key Sweat is nasally.
He's nasally.
He's nasally.
Weird.
Yeah, girl, I want just so
He's
bad.
saying all up in here. There ain't nothing coming from out of there.
That I want that. He be like, I want that bad. I want it. He be like, get it. I want it all like that, all like that. Once I get it,
Goodness.
I'll turn him back. I got a thing. That's how you say. That's where he's at right there. He's
all
right.
in the all in the head. But even like what are some of, like, even pastors, like preachers, like what is it about some of your favorite things?
I don't know a nun.
It's not for you. I'm just saying for the audience, that comes out. Like, what are some of the things that people that you listen to on a regular, like when it comes to an audiobook or even some videos? Like if you're going through you on the YouTube all day, what are some people that you're just like, oh man, I want this content is probably good for me, but I just don't want to hear what they got to say. I don't like their voice.
A lot of people don't like Cynthia G's voice.
Who?
Cynthia G.
Oh.
They feel like,
and I love Kendra's show, but I really don't like her voice either. And she's a radio personality, and some people have that. It's just some voices I'm just like, I don't want to sit through a whole thing of that. So for me, that's why transcripts are important, because I can read through it, because even a lot of stuff, even at work, sometimes I can't understand. Now, some people's voice and their interpretation of the English language is nice, and I'm like, okay, I understand it enough. But in order to get the full context of a whole meeting, I usually turn on the live chat in Team so that I can not cut some people off. My ear won't shut people down because I can't understand, and so I can get what I need. So yeah.
all right, y'all ready?
So
bad.
Is the quality of a sound, and that is detected instantly. Your voice makes an impression on someone in 1/10 of a second. That's the same amount of time that timbre of music makes an impression. There's a book by Zachary Waller, or Walker, if I'm saying his name, but it's called Nothing But Noise, and it's about timbre and music. And he talks about voice very briefly. But that very small fraction of a second, you ever dial when you're listening to the radio? For those who ever turn dials on radios, I'm aging myself, but we used to turn in a car. Like we used to listen to an actual radio, and we had to allow ourselves to turn to different stations. And you can tell, like you're switching stations at split, and you're deciding in that split moment whether or not you're going to stay at that station or not. People make those kind of tonal decisions all the time, and your voice is giving away that data like that. So when I say voice work, what is the appropriate tone for the context of the discussion that you are having right now? A lot of people are brilliant.
Did you hear that, D?
Yeah.
Did you hear that, D?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go back.
Or timbre is the quality of a sound, and that is detected instantly. Your voice makes an impression on someone in 1/10 of a second. That's the same amount of time that timbre of music makes an impression. There's a book by Zachary Waller, or Walker, if I'm saying his name, but it's called Nothing But Noise, and it's about timbre and music. And he talks about voice very briefly. But that very small fraction of a second, you ever like dial when you're listening to the radio? For those who ever turn dials on radios, I'm aging myself, but we used to turn in a car. Like we used to listen to an actual radio, and we had to allow ourselves to turn to different stations. And you can tell, like you're switching stations at split, and you're deciding in that split moment whether or not you're going to stay at that station or not. People make those kind of tonal decisions all the time, and your voice is giving away that data like that. So when I say voice work, what is the appropriate tone for the context of the discussion that you are having right now? A lot of people are brilliant and they have amazing content. And this is actually where I want to lean into Clubhouse. And when I first came into your room, in the future room, you were speaking. And I remember instantly being like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm listening. And then you told this really beautiful story. And I had no idea who you were. But I remembered the gravitas. I remembered how exceptional the delivery of your story was. I'm like, this guy, whatever he does it well, and he does it at a masterful level. And then the affect of your tone I cannot forget it. I was attempting to figure out how I wanted to describe it, but you have like a surgical warmth. That's the best way that I could describe it. It's like very precise and to the point, but it's warm. It's like the neurosurgeon that really cares about opening up the person's brain, and they're not just cold and looking at it like, okay, this is a person, but I still have to open them up and I still have to do this procedure, but I'm still dealing with a person. And that affect is what people will remember. Your voice and the tone of your voice is what will indicate two things for people after. What reminds them of you and what they remember about you.
Boom. D, any response to that?
It's facts.
Okay, we're going to continue.
There's neuroscience that supports all of this, where, and Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you said it. And there's neuroscience to support that. Like in certain memory tasks, they can remember if you said words in a sad way, they will remember that you said them in a sad way more than they will actually remember the word itself. Same thing with any other tone. And we are drawn to tonal decision-making. For example, I go to a restaurant. You go to the waiter or the waitress and you say, what's good food on this menu? And they'll point out this dish, like, oh, this is one of our popular ones. But then they'll say something like this, well, but this right here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that. Why? Because in their tone, I was able to ascertain that experience was so enriching for them. I want that. And when we're speaking to people are making decisions about whether or not they want to sound like us. Would I want to have the experience in my life that would make me sound like that? So you take someone who has a problem where they're like really agitated, like, I just, and then you come in and you're like, well, I have a solution for you. But that's the feeling that they're carrying. They actually don't want it. They actually want something else. They want a different tone, a different texture.
Part of you selling, right? Don't sell back to me the same tone I'm in. I'm looking for reassurance. I'm looking for trust. I'm looking for you got the answer. I'm looking for everything, right?
The guru tone to me, it
that rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, it irks my soul. It irks my soul because now I don't want to listen, because now it's going in your mind. You are now hitting all these points and you're not going to listen to me. Even sales calls, because I've been in the industry for so long, when it comes to that, I disarm salespeople with the types of questions I ask prior to the call. And usually I ask for what questions need to be answered prior to the call, because all you're trying to do is check my temperature to see where I'm at. I contacted you, I need this, and I have these questions. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. Keep going around the bush. I don't like it. I also, when people repeat things over and over, like, and they don't ask, and when they repeat things to me over and over, it is something that they're telling me that they don't think I understand. I need you to ask me that question instead of repeating the question to me, because that irritates my soul as well. Yeah, so it's definitely some things I'm just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Like, I'm not gonna do
So all is to say this too. What story does your resume tell about you? What story does your friendships tell about you? And what story on how you carry yourself tell about you? And what story does your debt tell about you? um, and they all play hand in hand. They do. They play hand in hand. Your debt affects how you breathe every day, how what you think about, how you sleep at night.
it's an invisible monkey on your back.
Yep. The building of your skill sets is important. This is just one of them. I wanted to bring this to light because some of you don't know how to communicate your needs when I'm talking to you, and some of you don't even know how to identify what your needs are, right? So I want you to practice those things. Identifying what is it that what is it that you need help with? What is it that what are your problems? And some things may not be a problem. Let me say that some things you may just want to improve on. They may not be a problem. You just want ways to improve on. And you may be looking for that. Also, I want to say, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.
And I wanted to add on to that, Tam, is what I find is that people um don't know like the how to do that. Like, how do I know what I want? How do I not know what I don't want? Usually people don't know what they don't want. Like,
I
you
think
know,
people
like
know. I think people know what they don't want. I think people don't know what they want.
right, but then this is how you get there. Start with your like I always say, start with your end first. Where do you want to live? um what type of what type of building you want to live in. Just, I mean, it can be that granular, like, what type of
What zip code?
what zip code is it multiple places? Do I want, even your job? Do I want to travel? Do I not want to travel? Do I want to be a leader? Do I want to be somebody that's in the shadows? In my family, what does that look like? Like, all of these things, your end, what that looks like for you, will help you work backwards to then you can plot on how you're going to get there, because that means something for so many different types of people. And it changes. So you may set you like today you say, I am going to do this, and I'm going to set off a plan. And along the way, that the knowledge that you received, it might change some of those things on your list. Adjust, pivot. It's okay. It's okay to pivot what that looks like for yourself, because who you are, your disposition, what you're willing to tolerate, not tolerate, it changes. Who comes in your life, what those influences are, it changes. And Journey to Jasmine, when you say expound, what do you want us to expound on? That will be very, very helpful so that we can get that question asked. answer for you.
So I'm gonna switch a gear here. Still storytelling, but y'all got used to his voice, and now we're gonna get into what could be, what it can lead to. Two different type of voices though, two different type of deliveries. All right. Here is one guy who talks about the road to six figure speaking and how embracing your story and inspiring others. And I have a little thing here about storytelling. My best suggestion to you when we're talking before we dive into this video, right? I'm going to pull this up. There's this little video. Um, I don't know if it's still up here. Is it writers.com? No, it's not. That's not what I'm looking for. There used to be this website that you could go to, and you could literally take different characters and tell different stories. And the reason why I'm pushing this is because everybody has a story to tell, but that story to tell, you got to formulate that, and you got to be, I don't want to say convincing, you have to have the narration behind it and the delivery behind it. So that's why I asked you about the singers and how the tone in which they were saying, or the timbre, I would say, and go from there. So you learned some new words today. You learned timbre and you learned solvent. Well, you learned solvent yesterday, but here's more words today. And I can't find it. It's one of the ones I used to use. Let me make this wider on the screen, and we're gonna get into the guy with his storytelling. This is just one. This is just one way people tell stories here, right?
How to master the art of storytelling.
Right. This is just
You've
one
just
way.
spent a
But notice that you got somebody
few months completely understanding your organization
with the
in your
whiteboard
role as a business
storyteller,
architect.
right?
Now you have to share that.
And that's just one way. That's just one. This is just one way of storytelling to convey a topic. But now you got to take this and you're in an interview and you got to convey that same message to the interviewer. How do you do that, right? How do you do that? All right, so let's go over here. Let's finish. Let's get on with it. This is only 14 minutes long.
Believe that you have a story and a message worthy of sharing it? Do you believe that you're an expert in your field? You were the one that failed over and over again. You were the one that had to overcome addiction. There's a purpose for your pain. How many of y'all feel abandoned? How many of y'all feel betrayed? They were like, me. I'm like, do you realize how powerful you are? Yeah. It's really actually easier to become a six-figure professional speaker than you think.
It has to work or it has to work.
A lot of people don't believe you can turn your story into, and you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years
Yep.
you've been speaking profession. It's not you told me this story how somebody was online teaching people how to become a full-time speaker. But as soon as he finished doing that video, he had to throw the T-Mobile shirt on or something like that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So
sure.
This is something you eat, something you dream, something you live. You really live this life, bro.
Sure.
So let's walk through that, man.
Yeah, so I tell people all the time, man, it's really actually easier to become a six-figure professional speaker than you think. You know what I'm saying? That's just $8,400 a month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just 2 gigs at...
All right, I want you to notice we got two different tones here, right? The last tone with the guy, very calm, not a lot of energy. He had energy, but he went overwhelming. Do you feel like you're being sold here?
This is some of that guru energy. Like, it's just that easy. Like, it's just this, and you doing this, and did it like.
Is it guru energy, or is it
I'm listening. I'm listening for the sake of listening. I'm listening.
See, you see how that tone changed?
I'm listening. I'm listening. People people interest me. So I am like always a fly on the wall, just absorbing what that is so I can, see how I move forward. And I think, Marshana, to answer your question about, intangible resources, like you have to be like very observant. And people will make an impression on you, right? In your life, in your day to day. Like I'm pretty sure there's somebody at work right now that you like the way they are, that like the way they work a room, or how their communication style in a meeting, or the type of respect someone gets. And so you start pulling from that person or gravitating to that person to get lessons. Or, there's just these things out in the world that you say, okay, I like and I don't like. And you kind of move in a way where it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be more conscious of that. So those are like those intangibles that we pick up on every day. People might, say it as energy or leadership or, resourceful. There's these things, but life gives you these lessons that you pull with on a daily basis. And it helps mold how you present yourself in a space, I would say.
Let's go.
$4,200. Yeah. And the average speaker in America that speaks for elementary, middle school, or high school gets between $2,500 and $5,000 per gig. That's with little to no experience. That means you ain't big time. You ain't got a big brand like that. That's just the average thing. So when I talk to people and they like, man, I want to be a professional speaker. I want to get out here. I want to help share my message. Like, is it really possible for me? I'm like, yeah. But it really goes down to, do you believe? Like, do you believe it's possible for you? Do you believe that you have a story and a message worthy of sharing it? Do you believe that you're an expert in your field? And I tell people all the time, you might not be an expert when it comes to science, or you might not be an expert when it comes to nutrition, but you're an expert when it comes to your pain. Like I be telling folk, like, can't nobody tell you, you know what I'm saying, how you should feel. You was the one that was molested. Like, you was the one that your house went through foreclosure. You was the one diagnosed with cancer. Like, you was the one that saw your loved one get murdered. Like, you were the one that went through that pain. You were the one that went through the divorce. You were the one that failed over and over again. You were the one that had to overcome addiction. So I tell people all the time, like, there's a purpose for your pain. Yeah. Right. But people don't always see that. People's like, I went through so much. And I'm like, I just did training, bro. And I ask people, like, tell me, how many of y'all have feel abandoned? How many of y'all have feel betrayed? How many of y'all have been miserable? How many of y'all have been broke? Your body broke, your bank account broke, you know what I'm saying? Your spirit broke. They were like, me. I'm like, do you realize how powerful you are? Yeah.
So I'm gonna stop there. Now take what he's saying, right? And understand your voice, and then take what the other guy is actually put out as well too. When I say the other guy, Marshall, and put that together to tell your story. A lot of you are doing like reviewing your resumes. You're looking at other jobs. You're looking at as does that job fit where you want to be? Like, does it in some cases, does the job, you may not want to switch jobs. Does the job have what you need to sustain you for the next 10 years? I always talk about it. If you can make 200,000 for the next 10 years, you can put away $1 million. If you make 300,000 for the next 10 years, you could put away 1 million, 1.5 million, if not more. How can you look at it from a perspective of this job? Does the job fit in line with who you are? Does the company fit in line with where you want to be? Does your resume line up? What about you? What about you attracts you to that particular company? A lot of companies ask this. And they ask this with the perspective of like, why did you choose the company? Because the position was open. For some people, it's deeper than that. It may be because the position was open and I could see myself working at this financial company because I'm interested in about finances. I'm interested in about home ownership. I'm interested about everything that when it comes to wealth management. So this allows me to get into that arena. Does that make sense? Right? Do you want to add anything to this before we jump back? Because I can see you going down.
Oh no, I'm not going down. I'm listening. I'm listening because you you need you need a flow, like a little bit of both, and
Mhm.
it the second part of the story is also in regards to your confidence level of articulating who you are as a person and how you present. And it's just like we have this conversation all the time about like the pecking order at work, like you know we have an ability to go to leadership ourselves and communicate what we need, whether we just have a question, we just want to shoot the shit. You, we can present ourselves, we can articulate our need, our ask, whatever that is, effectively. Then you have these situations where they want you to ask the team lead, and the team lead is going to ask this person, and the team lead is going, then the team lead is going to ask somebody else, and da 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 da. And then it takes all day for them to ask the person you went directly to. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those. To me, it's like being a ninja, and I'm thinking about Jasmine's questions on what it looks like to articulate your needs. It is
What define what a need is.
But then I asked her where, and she's at work. And for me, it is so many facets in that question because it's loaded. Because now it's like, what does it look like? It's freeing, it's refreshing, it's confidence, it gets you seen, like it puts you in spaces and places when the whole room is quiet on a call and you have questions and you're communicating with leadership or whoever, and they're hearing you articulate your perspective about an issue when they're asking and everybody's silent. Like it looks like success, it looks like freedom, it looks like so many things when you'll be able to show up. Example, one of my program managers, or she must have been friends with somebody that's in leadership on my team, and she was like, yeah, I talked to her and she hasn't heard from you. Oh, you only have to she doesn't know who you are. Oh, you only have to tell me that one time, because for me that was a code for me. Like, you better show up in that room no matter what she was saying. For her, the way it came out is like, oh, they don't know me. Oh, they're about to know me. Oh, she don't. Oh, okay, all right. That means I'm quiet, but not in a good way, because you have to learn your role. You have to find out the lay of the land. But if you don't show up, articulating your needs is showing up for yourself, and also you're showing up for others that may not have the voice to articulate their needs based on whatever their hangups are. Because it could be, you could be on a team of 20 and 10 people have the same problem, and you're going to be the only one brave enough to speak up about it. But it's also not what you say, it's how you say it, right? And that's where it comes to those other trainings and having your allies on what that delivery looks like, in speaking with your peers on, like Donald did a perfect example, how to ask questions without asking the questions. Jasmine says I want to get promoted by the end of the year. I'm known, my manager counts on me, number one, for months, but I quite don't know what direction I want to go to or go about it.
Just ask. Just ask. Yeah, just ask. Can I have a one-on-one? Find out what the title of the next position is, and look and see what skill sets you have versus what the skill sets that are needed for that position. If you don't have something, ask him to work out a career map on how you can get those skill sets, and then have a conversation with, like, this is where I want to be at in a year, and I know it's going to involve you. I'm being very transparent, and let's move forward towards that. If that person gives you pushback as your manager, find another manager that can help you get to that position, or find someone who's in that position and ask them a question. Um, that would be my best bet on that. I would ask questions on someone who's already doing it, and I'll also ask questions about the manager. And then if the manager that is your immediate manager gives you pushback, find another manager that can help you get there as well.
And I'm going to give you an example. I was just in a meeting the other day, and the manager is definitely your direct manager is definitely somebody that's going to be your ally, or just going to be your arch enemy. Because either or, because at the end of the day, if you're doing all that work, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be hard to find another you on that team. So it could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. But somebody that is a great manager that understands the growth, where you're at, where you want to go, they're going to hate to see you leave, but they're going to also be happy. They're going to be a champion for you to grow. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't speak up for yourself and find out what this company,
if you don't tell your story,
then how can you assume that they're going to do it for you? Or if you do depend on that, you're leaving it up to them to give you what they think you deserve. Because at the end of the day, how do you know if that's somewhere you still want to be? You know, if you find out you want to get promoted, right? What does that career trajectory look like? Is there space there? Is there a hiring freeze? You know, doing your own due diligence as far as looking what somebody that is where you want to be, rather, right? Is there anybody that's in the company on where you want to be? And if that person is there, ask them the questions. How did you get here? Was this part of your journey? Who do I need to speak to? Like, you need to put yourself in those shoes, and again, work backwards. If there's a job that you want, what research have you done? What due diligence have you done? Or are you just going to be dependent on management to tell you what is available? Find out what's posted, what's not posted. What is somebody out in the field? What is a colleague doing? Because a lot of times the job you want, it ain't even been created yet.
Yep. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After all you've gone through, after all you've experienced, there is so much power and greatness inside you because you're still here. Because you didn't quit. You didn't surrender. You survived. And now people will pay you because they're trying to figure out resiliency.
Yeah.
So they pay me top dollar, $30,000, $40,000 to step on stage and speak and just share my heart. This is stuff I would do for free.
Yeah.
Like I got one gig, they pay me $50,000, bro, for 30 minutes on stage. I would have gave that message for free, bro.
So what is it? Like, everybody need to develop a signature speech, like that you could go.
Mm-hmm.
So talk me through that. So step one in the process is, how am I finding these clients to pay me for this?
Mm-hmm.
And am I presenting the same thing to everybody? Like, talk to me about
So it's funny, man. Shout out to ET.
Now, this is the difference between tech speaking and speaking at motivational speaking. Tech speaking, we're going to know that you said this before, because when we're looking at putting people on the platform for these conferences, we're going to see if you presented this somewhere else. And if you're in with the in crowd, they'll be okay with it. If you're not, they be like, nah, that's presented somewhere else. If it's too much of a sales pitch of a vendor or a product, be like, nah, go somewhere else with that. So again, no difference between this, but I want you to be able to pick and pull out what he's saying and versus what Marshall is saying, and put together your story. The art of the story, the art of storytelling. I want you to be able to do that.
a mentor to both of ours, the number one motivational speaker in the world. I remember one time E was like, man, this organization gonna pay him like this is years ago. He charges $200,000 or more now, but they was gonna pay him like 75 grand. And he was like, bro, they said, when you come, can you give us the guru story? And he was blown away. He was like, you can find this story on YouTube. But people is like, but I want the story like live here in the moment. And that just let me know like the power of your story. So I tell people, you only need to have one signature message. And I look at that like the tree trunk, the foundation of your message. Then you can add on the branches and other things later, but you need to have that foundational story of what you've gone through, what you overcome, what you experienced, how you made it over, and give the people 4 to 5 principles on what they can do to apply that information to change their lives. But the important thing people got to know is, 1, you got a story, you got a message. 2, people need to hear it, and they will pay you top dollar for your message and your story. Now, some of the things that will put people on the right path: website, branding, logos, EPK, video speaker reels, right? So those are some different things that they can have.
That's the framework, the basis.
That's the framework, right? So if somebody came to me and said, okay, Jeremy, give me the 5-step process of what I should do, I would say, come up with your signature message, give us 5 to 6 takeaway points, things that you're going to teach and train on. For me, when I was in schools, I'm in corporate now, but when I was in schools, it might have been more so resiliency, mindset, attitude, hard work, sacrifice. Those are the principles. If I'm speaking in a university or at a high school, like those are some of the things that I will continue to reinforce. Once you have that, now you put together an EPK, which is like a simple PDF that has your picture, the topics you discuss, a short bio, just something that you can email the people to let them know who you are. The next step now will be a website. You build out a full website, get somebody.
Yeah, again, this goes back to branding. It's a whole nother branding conversation that we can have and talk about as well. We're coming up on our 2-hour mark. D, any final thoughts, any final words? I was going to go over this quantum computing and high performance computing, and then I got to talking about that and listening to that, and I was like,
Let's see. This was a heavy conversation. This was heavy.
It was heavy?
It was. It's heavy because, like, a question like, like Jasmine's question. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you do that? How do you show up? What is easy for Tam might not be as easy as Jasmine. For Jasmine. What's easy for Dion is not as easy for Tam. Like, we all have these strengths and weaknesses, right? Write it down. Write down what you want. People always say it's manifestation and all these things, and they use all these words. They use all these words. Write it down. Write out what you want, what it looks like. For me, I treat everything like a client. And it helps me. When I start internalizing all these things.
This is not a sexual client, right?
Because I'm an organizer.
It was a yes or no question, D.
I'm not going to entertain that. I write everything down as a project, right? And then that project, it helps me get things done because I am not internalizing those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, communication, it seems easy. Like, the concept is easy. You tell somebody what you want, what you need. They tell you what you want, what you need. But it's not. People have uncommunicated conversations. Uncommunicated meaning that there's this story in their head. And in that story, right, it's something that they expected you to do that you just didn't deliver on. And that person may be upset with you and you just don't know why. That's because there was an expectation that you didn't deliver, but you didn't know because they didn't tell you about it. There are so many nuances with that. But at the end of the day, you are your own best advocate. And sometimes you just have to say it and let the chips fall where they may. Sometimes you just got to get it out and be okay with that. Be okay with I'm just going to get it out, and after it's out and everything is all on the table, let's sort it out. Get that shit off your chest.
You want to go answer my question?
Get that shit off your chest. Jasmine, I think we've answered this question many a time in the meetup and in a couple of videos. Working remotely, you still have to you show up to all these other spaces. You come to Women in Linux and all these YouTube places, all the places that you want to be. Where you going? They network, whether it is virtually or not. If you have something to say, if you have something, I forget what job you do, what's your job, but there are organizations that do what you do.
Online events, virtual
online events, LinkedIn. There's always some type of conference or some type of workshop.
Clubhouse, LinkedIn Spaces,
where you ask questions. Like you show up and you ask some questions. And if it's something that you are offering professionally, I'm going to take a prime example. Engineering, I didn't even really realize it, but engineering cannabis is now Tech RX. If you notice, every time engineering cannabis says something, he'll have a personal thing and he will relate it back to some data stuff or some AI stuff and how whatever we saying links back to what he got going on when it comes to AI. Now he might want to smooth some of those edges out because it looked like a bot in some cases, but he's learning. He's doing it. And in tech sales, there's some place I think it's a product launch forum that I go to these different Slack groups. Tam's always tells you she's a part of like 20, 50, 11 Slack groups. I got a few Slack groups.
100.
Go where people are at. Every technology company needs a salesperson, but also based on people's feedback about you, what is it about you that makes you shine in your space? Where do you want to go? What's your local tech organizations? Yeah. What organizations as a technologist you want to be a part of outside of Women in Linux? Is it Blacks in Technology? Is it Tech Sales R Us?
Yeah, so this is a little different right here, right? There's a lot of good little nuggets on this one. This one's from 5 years ago. And this is about how one lady went from charging $0 to $5K for her strategy. And in tech sales and in sales, in every company, there's a strategy. In every person, there's a strategy. So knowing how to charge or how to come up with a number for that strategy is something important. Another one is, what is strategy? How do we put that together? Right now, Jasmine, you're trying to come up with a strategy to go to the next level. And how do you come up? Because you're really trying to go from where you're at right now to the next level. That's it. You're trying to go from one pot of cash to another pot of cash.
Right. And then also in the trajectory of a salesperson, right? And from my experience, it's like, okay, if you're in sales, usually from sales, you are a team lead or a manager. Then from a manager, you are a director of a region. And then from that region, you are a VP of some sort. And then you're going up the ladder in that. Is that even a ladder that you want to go up? Do you want to manage other people? Do you want to be responsible? Or do you want to take the skills that you learn in tech sales and move into another type of position. And what does that position look like? What in the field of it, in your perfect world, what does that job entail? Is it community advocacy? You know, do you want to take that sales experience and that zhuzh of telling that story? Do you want to be in community development or advocacy where it's on a totally different level? And who in the space is doing something that you're saying, I like what that is. How do you do that? What does that look like? And dig into that person's story, what they're telling about themselves. Look at their LinkedIn and see what that trajectory is. How do you do that?
All right, let's look at this strategy. Thank you. You hear the sound, right?
Hey guys, this is a special episode. I'm catching up with, you guessed it, with Melinda, and she's here and she's had some tremendous growth. So I want to talk to her. And without further ado, Melinda, what has been going on with your life?
So before they get into it, he actually goes through like him coming to her looking for a redesign of the website and what is her strategy to help that person redesign. So here we're going back to storytelling again, where we're talking about you got to pull that story out of that person. What does your website say about you? What does your LinkedIn say about you? What are all these things? What do they say about you? Right? Again, every bit of your life tells a story. Like I said, your debt tells a story. Your job tells a story in terms of income and the income increase that you've had, your trajectory, so forth. That tells a story. Everything that you have done in your life from when you were born until now, there's a story. And there's a story that has been told. Now, how do you take that story and sell it back to somebody to say, you're the perfect person that I want to hire? Your experiences through these things, X, Y, and Z, your book, your branding, whatever, you're the person I want to hire. And when I say hire, I don't mean you may be working for them W-2. You mean we're working for them 1099. You may be a consultant for that person. So let's go.
Last time we spoke, she was like, Chris, all my work is gone. What did you do to me? You tried to ruin me or what? Mm-hmm. And I said, stay with the plan, follow the process, trust me, and I'll take care of you. So wonderful things have happened.
Yes.
You are leading the charge for a bunch of designers to start to charge for their knowledge. So I want to hear kind of where you're at.
So she's charging for her knowledge, not necessarily the doing.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions about how you got to be where you're at.
Okay.
All right, give us the big update.
The big update. Well, last time I was here, we were here with Rebecca, and I was saying how all of my leads had dried up and my work. And I was probably eating top ramen and something.
Oh, hush. Hush.
Wasting away.
Top ramen over Kobe steak. But yes.
Now, yes. Yes. So since then, one huge thing that's changed are the leads. The leads are coming in.
Yes.
I have a lot of leads, which now, and I've sold jobs at a much higher price. Now I have to do them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm dealing with actually
new problems, right?
Yeah, new problems,
right.
Great problems. I'm not complaining. I'm very thankful. Mm-hmm. But it's a completely different, it's a huge shift. And it started, I would say, right after Thanksgiving. I got all the leads.
So it does take time. I just want to let everybody know it does take some time. You all expect instant results. Like if I do X, then Y will happen immediately. And it doesn't work like that. Real life does not work like that. It takes time to prepare the soil, to plant, and then you don't get to harvest for some time. So let's just get into the nitty and the gritty, if you will. The nitty gritty, which is you're getting a bunch of leads now, which is fantastic. We'll talk more about how you got those leads, but let's talk about charging more. Let's just dangle the carrot out there for them.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're charging more? Like, how much more? Where do you go from and where are you at now?
Well, I went from not doing strategy at all, using a questionnaire as my strategy, I would say. And I wasn't charging for that. And now I am charging. I'm leading with that. I'm actually selling that. Not really selling. I'm trying to align with my client. I don't want to say sell because I'm not pushing anyone into anything.
That's right.
I'm aligning with their goals and their problems. And
she's not selling anything. She's coaching. Coaching is totally different than what it is with mentoring and training and mentor training, sponsorship, all that. It's all different. We're working on some stuff. You're going to see some stuff coming out. But let's get back to it.
I am offering them strategy first, really as the only option if they would like to work with me. And I'm presenting it in a way that they fall in love with strategy, and then
So in consulting, what she's talking about right here, we're gonna get out of here because there's another one that could go on. There's so many videos that I found on here that were nuggets, but I want to offer this. Some of you are selling yourselves as consultants by doing versus advising, and you probably make more advising than you will by doing. And the reason why I say you will make more by advising is because you can advise multiple people at the same time versus you doing, you may not can do multiple projects at the same time. So now how do you come in and be an advisor, a strategist, where you're saying these are the routes and things that you can go, and it really comes down to coaching. Here's how I can come onto this project to be a strategist for you and get you to where you need to be, but I'm not going to do the work that you need to do. You're going to have to find somebody to do that. And people get paid for this. Just putting it out there. If y'all want to know more, hit me up in Slack. I may go live tonight on our go-to meeting and just chop it up with you for a little bit after hours. And go from there. D ain't gonna join. She'll never come rock it with us. Well, I'll take that back. She came.
I was about to say
she came and rocked.
You just throw me in the role like I'm just I am the anti. That is so not true.
But I did want to lead with this. There's one video, and I went looking for it. He talked about where he took all the stuff off his wife's computer. His wife needed some help with her computer, and he fixed it. And his wife wanted the computer fixed, and he fixed it, but she had like 1,000 files on her desktop. And he took them and he put them in folders all on her desktop and like, see, look, I fixed it and I did this. And she was like, why did you do that? I didn't ask you to do that. Put it back how it was. So they got to a big argument. He went to his therapist. And his therapist said to him was, you did a task and completed the task without knowing all the information. So some of you are going out here completing tasks without all the information. And then you wonder why you're stuck or you're not moving forward. It's because you haven't asked the right questions and you haven't gathered all the information that you needed and you haven't executed on just that information. No more, no less. Just putting it out there. That's it, D. I'm done. I can go on. This is my thing.
Is it?
Yeah. This is the fun side. Because now in tech, you're working on the communication, you're working on the strategy, you're working on how to execute it, and you're working on who can do the work as you are in a company of a company. So when you start to learn how to do that while you're on a team, and looking at what tools they use, how they communicate, who they communicate with, how they communicate. When you start learning those different nuances, and then you step outside and then become the consultant, it really elevates your work ethic. One, two, it elevates you in terms of how you communicate to that person. But the hardest part is, and this is always going to be the hardest part, is how do you quantify what you do financially? Do you do it on a per project basis, and do you do it on a per hourly basis? And most people do it on a per project basis. But I think you go from being hourly to a project based type of situation. But that's only after you understand the type of work that's going to need to go into that and how to break that up into phases.
Yeah. And then also when, knowing that, okay, that when you are consulting and you come up with a strategy, that's one price. And then when it comes to the implementation and putting those pieces together for that, that is another price. And when you have both of those together, where you can implement, or where you can strategize and come up with the implementation, not getting caught up in recognizing when it's scope creep into to your realm of what you're doing. Example, I had a client that I did a lot of project management things for in the regards of implementation. And when it came around years later, when based on our business relationship, that it came where I was a consultant, the question came up, well, who's going to do that? And I'm like, you and your team. I'm not in that realm. I am not in that role anymore. And this is what I see for you and your team. This is what you guys are doing. And if you need assistance in putting that together, then let's go from there. But, in the way you show up and how you show up, make sure you draw lines for yourself of what those cutoffs look like, because you can easily get caught up in the nuances of wanting to deliver because it's something new for you, or you don't want to lose that client. Sometimes you have to walk away. Be prepared to walk away. Be prepared to show what you have, what you can do, and get that feedback, and let the pig feed simmer on that, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're just like, okay, now I've overextended myself for less money. You're on mute.
Okay, I lied. It's one more. It's one more. It's only 3 minutes. It's only 3 minutes. In this one right here, different perspective. There's a longer video of this one. 3 ways to improve communication instantly. I figured you can walk away with a nugget. You got several nuggets today, but let's go.
Understand that the way you speak is just a series of behaviors. And these behaviors are either serving you or they're not. And behaviors can be changed.
3 tips on how to be a more effective communicator.
Okay, the first thing is self-awareness. And the way you develop self-awareness is the following. Record a video of yourself speaking for 5 minutes. It's going to be excruciating. Do it. Once you've recorded this video of you speaking for 5 minutes, then you're going to review it in 3 different ways. Here's the tip. Leave it for a day. Don't watch it straight away. If you watch it straight away, you are too damn self-critical. Then you're going to review it in 3 ways. The first time, turn the sound all the way up, press play on your phone, turn your phone around and just listen. And listen to the qualities of your voice. What do you like? What don't you like? It's okay. It's okay to like some parts and not like others. And just take notes. Pay attention to yourself vocally. What sounds are you making unnecessarily? Here's the self-awareness process, but it only happens when you isolate things. Second time you review it, turn the sound off. Press play and just look at yourself talk. What do you like about the way you move? What do you feel needs to be improved? Are you expressive with your face? Do you move your hands when you talk? Is there anything non-functional about it? Just take notes, write it down. This is, again, self-awareness. And then at the end of that, just get that video transcribed. whatever transcription service you want to use. And then, key thing here, leaving the non-words and the filler words. Non-words being the sounds we make to fill the silence. Filler words being the words we use to fill the silence. And then when you get it transcribed, use a red highlighter and highlight the key non-functional behavior or non-functional sounds or words that you make. This one move alone will completely transform how you come across. You'll be shocked how many of my students, just by getting rid of their ums and their ahs, increases their clarity and increases their authority and credibility dramatically, just from removing one damn thing.
I don't know. I don't know. Do we say a lot of ums and ahs?
Yeah, I think it's a thinking transitional word.
I don't know. I have to go back and watch this video to see if I say a lot of ums and ahs.
This is what happens when we are clear about what we got to say and we just get it out and we're really knowledgeable about what that is and we're not thinking about it and it's just off the cuff. There is no ums and ahs, right? Never. But when it is something where you are thinking and like using your hand or trying to find out how you want to deliver something, it's always going to be ums and ahs. That's what I noticed. Even in my speaking, like when do the ums and the ahs show up?
Round 2.
Crazy. People get held back from promotions because people will say things like, you seem unsure about your ideas. Second thing I would do, and I've got a lot of people who follow me who are ethnic, and I want to share a tip that helps my ethnic viewers and listeners here. Grammatically, if you speak and you work with a lot of people in the Western culture and you have a lot of grammatical errors, this robs you of authority and credibility very quickly. Record yourself speaking for 20 minutes. Then once you've got this, get it transcribed, send that video and the transcription to an ESL teacher, English as a second language teacher, and say, with my current language in which I speak with, and again, what do I talk about in these videos? Improvise, because we're trying to tease out the behaviors that are non-functional. So what's your favorite food? What's your favorite location? Talk. Then that ESL teacher will zone in on the key areas where you need to improve with your grammar. You do.
Now, what you notice is he said the ESL teacher. What you're hearing is that's another job for somebody to sit there and listen to someone else, translate what someone is saying, and give them feedback on what they have said and how they can improve. You want to know where the jobs are at? That's another job. And don't think that AI is not going to be helping with that as well.
So that's how I know that's how I know when a company that I broach for any services, when they are outsourcing the work, I can tell by the written word if that is being outsourced, by the nuances in the context or how it was interpreted. I know it off the cuff.
Okay.
A couple $100, they'll send back 80% of the key phrases you use all the time that is grammatically incorrect. Boom, enhances the way you come across dramatically. And the third thing I'll say is a mindset thing, is to fully understand that the way you speak is just a series of behaviors. And these behaviors are either serving you or they're not. And behaviors can be changed. Right? I went a bit New York before. I could do the Asian too, man. Right? These are just behaviors. These are just a series of behaviors. And this is what I'd say to my students all the time. Don't be so attached to who you are in the present that you don't give the future version of yourself a chance. Don't be so attached to a series of behaviors. Behaviors can be changed. You can change, you can transform, you can evolve. You're not a stationary being. You're forever evolving, forever growing. So should your ability to communicate.
Boom. All right, D, I'm done. You know, I could go on all day, all night. I'm done. I hope you got a word out of that today. I hope you got timber, solvent. I hope you understood the different types of communications that you have seen here today. His voice was a little bit more relaxed versus the last one. The other one, y'all felt like he was a guru and he was selling to you. But he was also giving you energy and letting you know that your story can make you money and how that story can make you money. But how do you effectively communicate your story to others? We've seen this different ways, from voice recordings You've seen this different ways from video recordings. And I tell you all the time, the only way you're going to really get good at communication is when you learn something and you teach it back to someone else, and you're going to have to record yourself doing it. I didn't get this way overnight. I've been doing Women in Linux for 6 years. We just went live on YouTube 2 years ago. But we were very, very behind the scenes. But I've been teaching behind the scenes for 6 years. So my practice comes at my meetups every week. And I teach people from all walks of life. And I try to break it down to people from all walks of life. Some stick, some don't. Some people come back, some people don't. Some people are like, that's going to be too long. Some people are okay and they have stuck it out. And where they were 6 years ago to where they are now is a dramatic change. For some people who joined last year until now, it's a dramatic change. As for some people who joined in January, it has been a dramatic change. But you control the change. I only present to you what it is that I know that you can do, the value that you can have, and where the market is going and where it's growing. It's on you to execute. I can't execute for you. I got my own shit I got to do. That's what it is.
No one can tell your story or advocate for yourself like you. I've been in plenty of situations where even something as simple as being introduced to the team and 3 things about yourself was changed, or I had to advocate to say, that is not what I said. This is what I said. And I want it to be relayed just like that. Show up for yourself. Practice little acts of confidence every day. Sometimes that acts of confidence comes in the form of no. A lot of times, many people that lack confidence are people pleasers. It's okay to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm unable to show up for that because I need to do A, B, C, and D. Do that for yourself. Just one small act of confidence. If you need some time for yourself, if you're used to doing something or driving somebody or showing up, even if you're overextended at a church function or something, people, and I notice, parents do this a lot. They volunteer you for stuff that you didn't ask to do. I'm not going to be able to do that. Show up for yourself, advocate for yourself. Read something about communication styles. Do that once a month. Pick somebody, a therapist on YouTube or on Instagram, and really dig into communication and how that shows up for yourself. Saying no does not mean that you're being negative. It just means that you don't have the time for that right now, and that might change, or it might be something that you've been agreeing to that you don't want to do. Effective communication means that what you are articulating about yourself, that other person understands and receives, and that there is no miscommunication about it. When they repeat what you said, that it is received in the way that it was intended. So,
yeah, we should do a video on effective communication or different communication styles.
Yeah, or some role playing stuff on what that is, because people, and it's just words. I feel, maybe, those type of things where it is gray. It's not specific. It leaves the door, what we call the door, open.
I want to give a shout out to Peggy Regis. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the live as well too. Share it with others. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, everybody. On this video, I know it's a little unorthodox video that we did, because I swear I got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about. Really, I do. I got a whole.
I don't think it's unorthodox. I think we do a really good job of, again, a holistic approach about being a technologist. Like, knowing how to communicate is way more than 50% of your job. Like, that's one of the first things that's on the resume is your written and oral communication. And 9 times out of 10, it also says, can you break down complex concepts to people?
See?
A lot of those say that.
These are things I was going to talk about. The IRS $1.7 billion update to its IT infrastructure. NIH, the Marshal Services, what they're trying to figure out years later. Marshal Service is still looking for help with this seized crypto. Like crypto got seized, and they still looking for somebody help, and they're looking at people to come in and help out this, that, and other. Like that, I had that. The White House came out with their cybersecurity budget priorities for 2025. What does that look like? Because that means that pot of money is already there and people are starting to dip into it. And that means that people are starting to hire into it. What does OPM look like? They released a federal intern experience program for OPM. Like I said, I got us. I got us. The U.S. Patent Trademark Office had a data leak, and it leaked 61,000 private addresses from the patent office. So what that looked like I said, I could go on. I got things for days. We'll talk about it some more. I may just talk about it. I may just do a recording and just talk about it in detail from there. D. Charlene Everett said, Guru Energy quotes by D. I love it. It's always pulled in the Guru Energy without research and lost a lot. This is so helpful to be a better person. Yep.
Yeah, you got to dig in and do a little bit more research when it comes to that Guru Energy, and it does what it does. It pulls you in. It's infectious. It makes you want to learn more. It is, that cult like synergy that people buy into. But yesterday in Foolish Finance Friday, it was one of the things is like, is being foolish one of the best educators? Absolutely, because we learn by mistakes. We learn by doing. And it's also
$1 million though.
I mean, some people will. Some people who are multimillionaires, $1 million might not be nothing. It might be, something to somebody else. Like, I mean, you of all people, you will spend some money for a lesson. Like, oh, I'm just gonna spend it. I just want to see how it does. It's relative. Now it might not be $1 million, but we just spent some money.
Me? No, Dion. I ain't spent nothing. That's not what I do. And I might eat up some money.
You gonna do that too? You gonna ball it.
I might eat up some money. I might travel on some money.
Let's taste that. I haven't seen that before. Let's try it. They got something on here that costs $100,000. We need to try it. If we don't like it, F it. We're not doing it. I don't want that. It don't sound tasty, delicious.
Or is this depth soul biting passion that he is possessing and displaying during this? It's probably depth soul biting. You're probably going back and watching it again. You're probably going through the where you probably stopped at and picked up. Yeah.
The guy. And when it comes to storytelling as well, it's just, and it depends on what part of the story that you want to tell. Where my tech story picks up is different where Tam's tech story picked up, and
what did Casual Economist say? From the corner to the kernel.
That's where you started, from the corner to the corner.
Mm-mm. That's Casual Economist. He said you started from the corner to the kernel.
That's where you started?
Mm-mm.
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah. Deceitful.
Ooh.
Don't live in these wicked streets, Dion. Let them go. Oh, yeah, it's plugged up.
Let me go while she on the roll before she get revved on up again. So we got our hats on today. You can get these online at womeninlinux.org. Click on the shop. In order to get Tam's hat, you have to be a part of the Red Hat Accelerator. They always send really neat stuff, little swiggity swag.
I got a little ponytail in the back, but I put it in the hat. I put it inside. I didn't want to be out.
You got a little in the back, a little.
And I don't have no. Go on and say your F's.
What?
Don't put your F's because you're trying to be funny. You tell me you got a little poo in the back. No, I got a pup.
You got a little. You got a little.
I have a pup. Put your F's. Articulate your F's on me, my G.
No, that's a little.
No.
I see a little.
No. Now I gotta pull it out.
It's really time to go.
I gotta pull.
Why are you trying to pull it out? Now your hat gonna pop off.
No, it ain't. I combed it down, but I got a poof in the back, my G. I got a poof. I put it back.
Oh, yeah, you got some hang time, my G.
Yeah,
you got a little hang time.
Yeah,
you got a little hang time.
Don't be out here trying to sell the people.
You got a little hang time.
I got a put in the back.
It's not poofed out, but you got a little hang time. I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna give you. You got some hang time.
I just put it. I put it in.
So I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna give you that, my G.
I hear. Don't be out here.
I mean,
don't be out here debadging me like that.
Well, usually I'm trying. This is reverse psychology. I'm really trying to get you to admit that you do have hang time, so you won't be thinking you're.
I didn't say I had
tomorrow.
hang time.
My hair won't grow. Look at it. It's not. Why does it never grow?
A little
hang time.
A
Here,
little
Women in Linux, 6:04 p.m.
A little poo in the back. That's where you tried it.
You see how she do? I already gave it to her. She still won't try to run me over in the road.
Tried it.
All right. You guys have a good one.
You gotta watch it.
You gotta watch
it.
Your charges is to learn something about communication. Type in effective communication. Type in active listening. Type in uncommunicated expectations. Type all of those things in, and get your plan. Work backwards. We will see you on Wednesday at the meetup, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are looking for a one-on-one, we are doing one-on-ones a little differently this go round. I have some opening in my schedule. So if you need a one-on-one, go ahead and DM me in Slack with 2 proposed times, and I will let you know. I can get one of those scheduled. And if I can't, what works best for us, and we can go from there. The pricing is in the regular link that we use. So in the meantime, thanks. We appreciate you, and we will see you on Wednesday.